Loving the Seventh-day Adventist Church, this is a very urgent message. A very urgent message regarding the sanctuary truth under attack. The sanctuary message under attack. Now here recently, within the Seventh-day Adventist Church, we're having a meeting simulcast through the Bradford Cleveland Book Leadership Center at 9 o'clock in the morning at the Oakwood University OUBN, in which the one project leader, along with Dr. Pollard and the president of Loma Linda, will be discussing the Seventh-day Adventist Church at the crossroads. They're discussing, is the Seventh-day Adventist Church still considered God's remnant church? They're discussing, is the Seventh-day Adventist Church becoming more Catholic in that it's stopping women's ordination at a local church level from the General Conference? They're discussing, are standard-based religions still relevant? They're discussing many topics, of course. But one of the main issues I want to do this evening is the sanctuary truth. The sanctuary truth is one truth since the 1950s during Walter Martin and Barnhouse and Robert Figueroa and Mahaney, in which in the Seventh-day Adventist Church there was ecumenical conferences, evangelical conferences to undermine the faith of the sanctuary truth. The fact that Jesus Christ is in the most holy place right now since 1844, blotting out sin, investigating our character, and interceding for us. That truth is under attack. The fact that we believe, as an historic Adventist believes, that we have sin upon the books of remembrance at the close of human probation, that sins roll back upon our records and our names are blotted out of the book of life. That truth is also under attack. The modern belief now in the major Seventh-day Adventist Church right now, and within much Protestant denominations right now, is that we cannot overcome sin, that we'll be sinning until Christ comes back in the clouds, that Jesus Christ is not in the most holy place, interceding for us, investigating our character, and blotting out sin. And that, we can never overcome sin. And that perfectionism is legalism. Obedience to God's requirements like the Sabbath commandment, health reform, dress reform, music reform, education reform are all legalistic standards that we need to give up in these last days. Now, beloved in the Adventist Church, look right here at this book here called The Great Controversy. The Great Controversy chapter called in the Holy of Holies, page 423 to 425, it says, "Those who are living upon the earth when the intercession of Christ shall cease in the sanctuary above are to stand in the sight of a holy God without a mediator. Their robes must be spotless, their characters must be purified from sin by the blood of sprinkling. Through the grace of God and their own diligent effort, they must be conquerors in the battle with evil. While the investigative judgment is going forward in the heaven, while the sins of penitent believers are being removed from the sanctuary, there is to be a special work of purification and putting away of sin among God's people upon earth. This work is more clearly presented in the messages of Revelation 14. What is Sister White saying? Revelation 14:12 says, "Here's the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus." Now, what are the commandments of God? God's 10 commandments, His moral law found in Exodus 20, verse 1 to 17. They keep those commandments faithfully, and that the faith of Jesus, meaning they believe in the spirit prophecy, all the prophecies of the Old New Testament, including a modern-day prophet, Sister Ellen G. White. Then Sister White goes on to say in that same chapter, in later pages from page 427 to 432, she states this. She says, "The condition of the unbelieving Jews illustrates the condition of the careless and unbelieving among professed Christians who are willingly ignorant of the work of our merciful high priest. In the typical service, when the high priest entered the most holy place, all Israel were required to gather about the sanctuary and at the most solemn manner humble their hearts before God, their souls before God, and that they may receive the pardon of their sins and not be cut off from their congregation. How much more essential in the antitypical Day of Atonement that we understand the work of our high priest and know what duties are required of us. Well, what is he saying by that? He's saying that when Christ left the earth and went to the holy place in AD 31, the Jews who stood in sacrificial systems were not benefited by his high priestly role in the holy place. They did for 1810 years, from AD 31 to 1844. In 1844 until present, when the apostate Protestant world does not come out of Babylon, according to the second angel's message, and it being repeated in Revelation 18, verse 1 to 4 as well, and when the many seven Adventist last days do not receive the truth of victory over sin, which is the pillar of the sanctuary truth, and the fact that Christ is blotting out sin, investigating our characters, and interceding for us up in the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary. When they did not receive those precious truths, they are ignorant of the work of our merciful high priest. And they are not going to be saved according to their false understanding of that truth, beloved in the Adventist Church. This is the new movement that has entered into the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We see clearly with Dr. Pollard meeting with the leader from the One Project, and with the president of Loma Linda on OUBN this Monday at the Bradford Cuban Leadership Center. I do not believe these people are going to discuss how to bring the church back to revival and reformation like Pastor Ted Wilson wants to do. I believe they're going to try to move us into this new movement described here in Selected Messages, Book 1. That's Selected Messages, Book 1, page 202. That's the start of the chapter, page 202. Chapter called The Foundation of Our Faith, 202 to 204. Actually, it's not 202 to 204, it looks like. Let me see here. It's sorry, I have Selected Messages Book 2 in my hands. It's Selected Messages Book 1, sorry. Selected Messages Book 1, page 202 to 204. She says, the enemy of souls has sought to bring in the supposition that a great reformation would give way in our church, and it will consist in giving up the doctrines, what makes our church a people, the pillars of our faith. Now, what is she talking about? She's not talking about the 28 fundamental beliefs that we as Seventh-day Adventists have voted on recently throughout the years we've been in existence. She's talking about the pillars of our position, the pillars that ground our church from the beginning, that Father Pierce and O.R. Crozier and James White and Edson White and all these men started back in the day, beloved in the Adventist Church, and William Miller and the pioneers. That's what he's talking about. Those pillars are under attack, beloved in the Adventist Church. And right now, the movement of the North American Division and wanting to ordain and commission females as pastors and elders and deacons, that movement is found in Testimonies to Church, Volume 4, page 210 and 211. She says, first they criticize leadership at the head of the work. Then they give up faith in the spirit prophecy. Then they criticize leaders at the head of the work, like Ted Wilson. Then they give up faith in the pillars that make us a people, like a sanctuary truth, and the Sabbath, and the state in the spirit prophecy, and the health message. Then they give up faith in the Bible as being God's infallible word. Then the downward path to perdition. So, beloved in the Adventist Church, that is a movement of the North American Division right now. And much of these North American Division unions are going to leave the church when the discipline action happens in this fall in October that Ted Wilson is doing to discipline these unions that are ordaining females as pastors anyways outside of General Conference votes. So they're going to leave the church and not support the General Conference with their tithe and offering. Beloved in the Adventist Church, it is wrong. I hope Pastor Ted Wilson can somehow fire these leaders that want to rebel against his authority and put new leadership there and steer this church into true revival and reformation these last days. That's my desire for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I told Pastor Ted Wilson when I met him back in 2011 that I have the same vision for the Seventh-day Adventist Church that he does. And of course, a regional conference president that was there that saw the whole thing, that's now over the regional retirement, the regional work, head of the regional work here in Huntsville for the regional retirement plan for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, told me, Lucis, the black work is has the same authority as the general conference in their territory, and he does not have the same vision for the Adventist Church that Wilson has. He wants to see it do exactly what it's doing with women's ordination, dancing in church, jury, meat eating, spiritual formation, all those things. And he told me that I'm not going to get hired in the black work with the attitude. Well, beloved in the Adventist Church, I don't have to get hired in the black work. Degree or no degree from Oakwood or Andrews. As long as I'm preaching a straight testimony in his essays to prepare God's people to the seal of God, the straight testimony causes straight shaking called for by the council of true witness. Well, beloved in the Adventist Church, the Pharisees of old, the Poplar ministry, these conference pastors, these conference presidents that are in the regional work that are doing all this apostolic, like evangelism council and all these things, beloved, they're going to be alarmed when they see the straight testimony going forth by the council of true witness, and they're going to start crying out against the sanctuary truth, crying out against the health reform, crying out against the spirit of prophecy, crying out against the dress message, crying out against all the reforms. So we need education reform in these last days. And we need to stand firm in these last days and sigh and cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst of. Now, beloved in the Adventist Church, one last thing. Let's cut the tape. When you go to Great Controversy, it mentions that these ministers that do these things will be destroyed by the hands of their members. The hands that once crowned them, the mouths that once crowned them with laurels, will be raised to destruction in these last days with swords. So they're going to be put to death. These false apostate ministers are going to be put to death by their members, beloved. Lord, have mercy upon my soul, and pray I'm not put to death by the membership, because I want to give them straight testimony in these last days. Maranatha, God bless.